Welcome to the Steelers Breakdown podcast featuring PennLive beat reporter Nick Farabaugh, who's fresh from Acrisure Stadium, where the Steelers had a glorious home opener before a rapturous crowd, and Justin Fields continued his astonishing development and led the Steelers to a mark of 3-0. He is now only the fourth quarterback in Steelers history to do that. And we're talking Terry Bradshaw, we're talking Roethlisberger, and we're talking Neil O'Donnell, all of whom eventually took the team to the Super Bowl. So why won't our loquacious coach, Mike Tomlin, anoint Justin Fields QB1? We know that wasn't the plan, that Russell Wilson was brought in to be 1A in the QB room, but a calf injury sustained on the opening day of training camp has hampered that plan. And now with the continued development of Justin Fields, which Nick has noted from the early days of training camp, and he was one of the few who was saying that you could actually see Justin Fields as the starter, not Russell Wilson. But now it seems as if, and I'm going to defer to Nick on this, is Tomlin just wanting this kind of two dogs, one bone competition between these guys, or is he really keeping the door open for Russell Wilson at some point when he's fully healthy? How are you breaking down how Tomlin is handling this QB situation?
Well, they don't need to make a decision yet because I don't think Russell Wilson's going to be ready this week. I have been watching Russell Wilson in practice for the past 3 weeks. Guys, he hasn't taken a sprint. He hasn't done a rollout. He's barely done under center stuff. He hasn't really moved. He's been too statuesque, too stationary to play quarterback right now with Justin Fields playing this well. So there's that part. So I think this week is going to be another week where Russell Wilson is limited, and then his emergency third quarterback again. I think the week after that is when we start to get into interesting talk. But here's why Mike Tomlin doesn't need to name a starting quarterback right now. For one, there's 3 years of Justin Fields tape from Chicago that says he's not the guy we're seeing right now. Now, guys can grow, guys can change. But as a coach, you can't take just a 3-game sample size into consideration against, as many games as Justin Fields had in Chicago. So you need to continue to see that this is legit for Justin Fields. Because what if he goes out this week against Indianapolis, throws 3 picks, reverts back to what he was, and then you had just named him the starter? Then you have to bench him, right? Bench him because you named him the starter. Well, no, now you don't, right? Now it's just, okay, Russ, you were the starter, you're back in there. And so Russ is listed as the QB1 on the depth chart. So there's that part of it. You need to continue to see the growth from Justin Fields. We are seeing great growth from him. He's playing very good football right now. This is some of the best football he's played in his career in terms of consistency, in terms of minimizing negativity. He is doing all of that at a very high level. So credit to Justin Fields for doing that. He looks like a very good quarterback. He looks like a new quarterback. But we have those 3 years in Chicago that you just can't discount. You can't just throw out the trash for 3 games. So that's part of it. I think the other part of it is he doesn't really have any motivating factor to do that. What does naming Justin Fields a starter right now do? Does it give Justin Fields too much complacency? It hurts the morale of Russell Wilson. There's just no need to do that right now. And so Mike Tomlin very well might have already made his decision in his head, and he just hasn't told anybody what that decision is. But there's no need to name a starter in public right now when, again, I just don't think Russell Wilson is going to be ready anyways. You want to keep the door open for all scenarios. If Justin Fields reverts back to what he was in Chicago, the negativity comes back. Or if he just keeps doing what he does, if Justin Fields leads his team to 4-0, plays just like he did this week, next week against the Colts, guys, he's the starter. There's no question about that. He has played very well, and he looks like the best he has in the NFL right now. And so that's where I think, the upside comes in, and that's where people are like, why won't he name him the starter? And it's because there's just no need right now. There's just no need. And locker room dynamics come into that because, again, if Justin Fields reverts back, you don't want to have to say you benched him and et cetera, et cetera.
And I think that makes sense. And we definitely have seen continued development of Justin Fields, and you noted it way back in training camp. You were noticing just the way he was developing in training camp under this system. This guy was looking like a new quarterback. My only question is, the media's hounding Tomlin for an answer on this QB1. The crowd is eating up Justin Fields. 412 area code is eating. They think after the wilderness, after Ben Roethlisberger left, that we have a franchise quarterback. Dare I say the F word? But is there something to reward Justin Fields for this progression and the hard work that he's showing by giving him the title? Is there anything to that?
I don't think he needs to. The reward with Justin is that he's getting the opportunity, and Justin continues to win. Justin knows that if he just continues to do what he does right now, he's going to be the starter. You can't take if Justin Fields has a game or two more games of this. I mean, really, if Russ was ready this week to come back, I still think Fields would start anyways. But you don't need to do that because Justin is going to be the starter. Russ is not ready. He is not ready. That is huge. He could play, right? Russ could theoretically go out there and play, look like a statue, and play at 85, 90% of Russell Wilson. But that's just not better than what Justin Fields is right now. And I'm not even sure 100% Russell Wilson is better than 100% Justin Fields. Certainly, I don't think the Justin Fields we have seen so far he is better than. And so that's really where it comes down to. I mean, you don't need to name him the starter when if he just keeps it up, he will be the starter. Justin should know that. But if I were Mike Tomlin, I wouldn't be giving him any validation to say that. Keep going. Like you are a young quarterback. You are in a contract year. You came out of Chicago looking like they traded you for a conditional 6th round pick. Like let's put it into perspective here. No one wanted Justin Fields. Right. Like that legitimately happened. Remember people were talking, maybe they'll get a first, maybe they'll get a second for him. Guys, they got a conditional 6 that can maybe turn to a 4th. That is what the Chicago Bears got for Justin Fields. And yeah, they had a few better offers for them. I think the Patriots offered like a 5th or a 4th or something like that, but that's still not that much better. That was a day 3 pick for a quarterback that was that highly touted coming out of Ohio State. And so keep the chip on his shoulder. And he knows if he keeps playing like this, he's going to earn that starting spot. And he has played well through 3 weeks. It's going to be keep it up and keep getting us to wins. Because right now, the Steelers go 4-0. It doesn't matter how hard that back schedule is. I mean, let's be real here. If they are 4-0, the odds of them making the playoffs are significant. It already is. So Justin Fields has just done a great job, and you want to keep that fire under him. You don't need to name him a starter. And again, you also have the out there. If he struggles, you can just go with Russell Wilson very seamlessly.
That is a great point. The humbling experience of getting shuffled out of Chicago for a 6th round pick, but knowing that your future is in your hands. Not only being a starter for this team, but like you said, he's a 1-year rental for the Steelers. But certainly, if they think this guy is a franchise player, I mean, we're talking a contract with the Steelers, right? I mean, that would be the plan. I mean, you can't go through this process with Fields and not feel that's in the future, right?
If he puts this up over a 17-game sample, if he forbid wins them a playoff game, yes, absolutely. This is the way this is going right now. It's through 3 weeks, so we are talking short sample size. So many different things can happen. I can't emphasize that enough. We have 3 games of tape. That is it. Everything can change 4 weeks from now. But let's say this keeps up. Guys, this is just what we watched happen last year in Tampa Bay with Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield, career renaissance. The year before that, it was Geno Smith, career renaissance in Seattle. We have seen quarterbacks from around the NFL go to better spots that coach them up well, play to their strengths, have very good years, and suddenly get big contracts. And that's the trajectory right now that Justin Fields is on. If he continues this, that is what you are going to give him. You are going to give him a Baker Mayfield-like contract, a Geno Smith-like contract, and that's what he will deserve because he's playing very well right now. He's not playing, in the tier of the elite, but he's playing winning football. He's playing much better than most quarterbacks in the league, and that says something. So, yes, this has to be a future consideration, too. And that's what I think, even if you're Russell Wilson, you have to think about that, right? Listen, Russ came here to start, but they can't pull the kid if he's playing like that because Justin Fields – it could be the future for the Steelers, right? He could be their answer to the quarterback position. Russell Wilson's 35 years old. He doesn't really have that same upside. And so, yeah, there's that significant difference there. But we'll see what ends up happening. Short sample size, but super encouraging from Justin Fields.
And those are some great comparisons that you just made with Mayfield and Geno Smith. What we could be looking at, with Fields in Pittsburgh for multiple years to come. Now, the flip side of this, I'm hearing a lot of smoke from the 412 area code, and certainly Bill Belichick put the NFL on notice. He was on the Pat McAfee show, and he said that the Steelers may have the best QB situation in the league. And we know that other teams, like the Dolphins, are having some issues at quarterback. So there's talk, and I'm not sure how serious or how much there is behind this talk, but certainly there's the guys on talk radio talking about, well, why don't they trade Russell Wilson and, Omar Khan pick up some more picks with it or a wide receiver? Is there anything to that? Do we take any of this seriously that Russell Wilson could be expendable in Pittsburgh by Omar Khan?
I mean, listen, he could be, right? He is a veteran. There are quarterback injuries that are happening around the league. The Miami Dolphins, for example, Tua Tagovailoa is on IR with that concussion. There are inevitably going to be more quarterback injuries that probably happen before the trade deadline. So, yeah, sure. I mean, listen, if Russ is not going to play, he is a top backup in the league. Russell Wilson is a starter-level quarterback in football. And so if some team, let's say the Dolphins, are still there, maybe they're in playoff contention, and listen, Skylar Thompson ain't it. We know that. And Tua's not coming back anytime soon. And near the trade deadline, they want a guy that can operate the offense. Russ can. There are fits that you could look around, right, and say that with. So, yeah, I mean, he could be a guy that you could theoretically move. And Russ might not, go against that. Now, he has a no-trade clause in his contract, so Russ is going to have to sign off on anything that is going to occur here. But if Justin's the starter, Justin is proving he's the starter, and Russ, if there's an opportunity for Russ that allows him to get playing time and allows him to show what he can do, I don't think he would go against that. So, yeah, I mean, it's a possibility. But, again, week 3, don't jump the shark just yet. Let's see what happens this week with Justin Fields. But Belichick's point is correct in that just like Tomlin's not naming a starter, let's say Justin Fields, again, struggles. Then, all right, you have a high-floor guy in Russell Wilson. Russ is going to be able to operate the baseline passing game, is going to be able to give you some good things in the offense. He's not going to be able to give you the QB run stuff that Justin has through 3 weeks, but he probably opens up a different side of the air game, right? A different side of the play action game. So there's differences, but he also gives you kind of this base level play where you can look at Russ and say, okay, Russ, you can give us this and we can trust you. And so there's that as well. But yeah, I mean, we get closer to the trade deadline. It's clear that Justin's the guy, and there's a team that comes calling for Russ. I mean, I can't, I wouldn't be against it if I were the Steelers, and I don't think Russ would either. And certainly then you're talking about, wide receiver trades, and we don't know who's going to be open yet, but that could be a significant thing for the Steelers too. And I certainly think that they would look to add a wide receiver. If any injury pops up, for example, if tackle continues to be an issue, if Broderick Jones or Dan Moore struggle, we know Troy Fautanu is down for the rest of the regular season now. Maybe you look there for a trade or something like that, right? Just these positions. Corner, Corey Trice is out for at least 4 weeks with a hamstring. So there's just different things. But wide receiver makes the most sense from a trade standpoint. But yeah, I mean, you can't rule out a rush trade right now. But again, it's so early. Let's see. For all we know, again, Justin goes out, stinks the bed against the Colts, and then Russ starts the rest of the year. I mean, it's just unpredictable right now. But from what we've seen so far, if Justin Fields continues to play like this, a Russell Wilson trade is not far-fetched.
And let's dig into a little bit about what we saw on Sunday and what you saw from your vantage point in the press box regarding Justin Fields, his continued development, and him working with some big plays to Calvin Austin the third, and Scotty Miller was getting some yards after catch on some well designed plays, and of course. Freiermuth was working over the middle. So what did you see from Fields and this offense and the receivers that we do have more getting in the mix and having some splash play ability, particularly that Calvin Austin game breaker for the touchdown? What did we see there?
I mean, I think you saw some of the speed come through with the receiving core. I mean, it's still an underwhelming receiving core. And listen, they did that production probably with George Pickens' worst game of the year. Pickens was unbelievable against Atlanta and Denver. And then probably had his weakest game of the year, even though he had 5 for 57. I mean, that's not a bad stat line, but you turn on the tape, it's just not his best game of the year. But the other guys stepped up. I think what we saw in this one was the kind of taking off the training wheels a little bit of Justin Fields. I think through 2 weeks. The first week, you saw a QB run game. You saw the rollouts trying to keep him kind of, okay, let's build this guy's confidence up. Second week, it was kind of quick game stuff. He made some plays for himself outside of structure that were called back, penalties, et cetera, et cetera. Didn't have a great second half in that game, but they kind of started to take the training wheels off. The first half against the Chargers, I think it was a continuation of what we saw against the Broncos. A lot of the quick game stuff, trying to lean into the QB run game, trying to run the football. They weren't super successful on a lot of that until the last drive of the first half when Fields started to really get going. He had that deep pass to Pickens. Farabaugh should have caught that beautiful seam shot that he threw. Should have been a field goal before the half. It was a gorgeous pass. And then the second half, we started to see them say, okay, let's see what we can do in the middle of the field now. Because Justin showcased a little bit of anticipation in the middle of the field on that Freiermuth pass, and they started to open it up. I think the most underrated play of the game to me that people aren't talking about is that 3rd and 15 where Fields hits Calvin Austin right up the seam for about 25, 30 yards. I mean, just saw that the linebackers weren't properly set, weren't going to sink out and hit Austin right away. It was beautiful. He had Pickens up the seam on one of those drives as well. I think right before the Calvin Austin touchdown, he hit Freiermuth on a slant. He is starting to read defenses much better. If you watch the All-22 team from the end zone angle, you will see his helmet stripe. And I love the Steelers having their gold helmet stripe because it allows me to see where the quarterback's looking. You'll see him look to one side, come back to the other. He's hitting his second, third reads, or he's manipulating a safety or a linebacker to create an open window. He's doing a lot of things that require, advanced detail in your pre-snap and post-snap processing. I think his two biggest areas of growth this year have been the pre-snap processing. I think he's much quicker, much more decisive. And then you look at the pressure to sack ratios, the sacks. He's just not taking bad sacks, John. I mean, he takes 1 or 2 a game, but he's not taking a ton of them. And so it's not leading to bad decision-making. He's cutting out negativity. I know he had the pick, and honestly, that ball probably shouldn't have been thrown. That was probably the one bad, decision he made in the air game, the passing game. But I do look at Justin Fields and say those were the two biggest areas of growth. He is on a career low pace for pressure to sack ratio, time to throw. He's got a career high big time throw rate. If you're a Pro Football Focus guy, there doesn't have a turnover worthy play according to them either. Again, I think that pick can probably be classified as one, but he's not been a volatile quarterback whatsoever. He's been a very consistent quarterback with some really nice highs. And so he's really kind of attacking all areas of the field. And you're seeing the drop back passing game and the RPO game really carry this team right now. It's not an offense that I think still looks particularly good on film. I think there's so much meat on the bone, particularly in their play action passing game and the run game. I think that those are the two areas. John, you look at the run game tape, there are guys blocking the wrong guys. There are two guys blocking the same guy. There's guys missing the assignments, running to the wrong guy. It's like they don't know what the plays are. They're trying to, like, everyone's been asking me, where's the quarterback run game going? And then you look at what happens on the few quarterback run game snaps they do. The first one on 3rd and 6, remember this play. First drive, 3rd and 6, Fields, I think, lost like 3 or 4 yards on this play. There are 3 guys blocking the same end, and the defensive tackle just comes up and tackles him. If they had blocked the D tackle, Justin Fields might have gone 20, 30 yards. He had a huge crease. So there are openings in the run game, but it's personnel and mental errors related. We talk about the illegal formations. I know the penalties were really cut down this week, but that took a big play away from Pat Freiermuth. And so, just lining up correctly. In the passing game, route details, running routes to the sticks, running with full effort. There are things to clean up in this offense. So, yes, they look good this week. I think Justin Fields had a good performance, and they opened up the middle of the field. But this offense still has so much growth to hit, and they have a lot of meat left on that bone, particularly in the play-action game and the run game. Those two need to come along. If they can start to really clean that up, this offense can put up, 27, 28, if they can do that. That needs to be cleaned up. And a lot of it's mental, so it's fixable.
Great. Yeah, no, that gives us something to look forward to. And as we look forward, we have Indy on the schedule and the Colts. What does Fields and this offense face against them, and what do you anticipate will be the game plan in Indy?
Run the ball. That is what the game plan is going to be yet again, John. Now, there's a few interesting things about this defense. Now, this Colts defense has had some very up and down performances. The Texans really got after them in week 1. They did a nice job against the Packers, Malik Willis's first start, but they were crushed on the ground in that game. But they hold really strong in the red zone. They might give up long drives, but their bend don't break. They don't allow you to, turn 3 into 7, which I think is really important for them when you contrast their offense with the Steelers' offense, because their offense, the Colts' offense, is an offense that turns the ball over a lot because Anthony Richardson is a volatile young quarterback. So Anthony Richardson could throw you a pick 6 and then come back the next play and throw an 80-yard touchdown. Like, he's a guy that gets explosive plays but gives them back. He's super volatile. So there's different ways there. But the defense being able to hold you to 3 is really significant when you have that explosive element. Like you saw, he threw 2 picks against the Bears, but the Bears threw 3 right back. It's an opportunistic defense. But they're missing their best player in DeForest Buckner. He's not going to play in this game with a high ankle sprain. So their run defense has just been putrid. Now, last week it was really good, but the Bears' O-line and run game is an absolute disaster. I mean, it is a disaster in Chicago. But the first 2 run games, the Texans and the Packers, they were averaging like 200-plus yards per game on the ground. It was the NFL worst run defense through the first 2 weeks. The Steelers need to try and exploit that. I mean, Najee Harris is a little banged up, but he's going to play. Cordero Patterson proved himself capable down the stretch. So even if Jaylen Warren isn't in there with his knee issue, they should be able to run this football. They're going to be missing Buckner, who's just a superstar, and the corners for this team are just banged up too. They lost, really promising corner Juju Brents for the season, and they have a few other guys that are just really, really banged up. So, George Pickens, step up. Other guys, Miller, Austin, Jefferson, Roman Wilson, let's see. Start to step up. And so the game script is going to be to run the football, and the Steelers probably will be able to drive in this game. But the key to getting the Colts kind of put out early is to turn those drives into 7, because this is a pretty good defense. Once you get to about their 30-yard line, they do a really nice job of tuckering down.
And speaking of the run game, we go back to the offensive line. Now, I can't isolate on individual players on the O-line like you can, when you're in the press box. But it seemed like Broderick Jones had somewhat of a redemption game. And none other than Marquise Pouncey, I guess, was in Pittsburgh to sort of anoint Zach Frazier as the next franchise center in Steelers history, which has a long line of great centers going back to Mike Webster. So things are looking pretty good there. What did you see with that offensive line that continues to suffer from injuries, especially to Troy Fahatanu? And I really was kind of crushed when I heard the news on him, but yet we still seem to be seeing some good production and progress there. Why don't you take us through what you saw on the O-line and what could be opening up that running game in Indy?
Yeah, we talked about some of the assignment issues. That's an O-line thing. They got to get that cleaned up. It's not just one guy. It's a few guys. I've seen Broderick Jones mess it up. I think Zach Frazier has been phenomenal, but you see it a few times there. Left guard has been a significant issue. Spencer Anderson has not played well. And that's probably why they started pivoting towards Mason McCormick a little bit. You saw him get some run. Man, he kind of was like a freight train off the tracks, didn't really know what to do half the time, but when he hit you, he moved you. He's super athletic and plays with a ton of energy. I'd like to see more of him. If Isaac Seumalo can't play, if Isaac Seumalo plays, this is going to be maybe the game where the run game pops. He is the X factor to opening up this run game. That is a personnel thing. I think that would be so huge for them to get Isaac Seumalo back from his pec injury. And we'll see. I think it's going to be like real close this week. I think he'll definitely be back for Dallas in 2 weeks. But if they get him back this weekend, that's going to be huge. Frazier's playing at a super high level. I mean, his tape through 3 weeks is elite. I mean, I'm not even going to mince words. It has been elite. He's been a top 5 center in football through 3 weeks. So he has been that good. As you mentioned, Falatano being hurt really stinks. His first game against Denver was super promising. He looked like a guy that was gonna really help this offensive line. But Broderick Jones, I thought the first half of the game really was tough to watch. I thought it was a continuation of it, and I think eventually in the second half he got going. I think he started to clear it out. Now I think he still had pass pro issues, but this is the 2023 Broderick Jones I saw. He moved guys in the run game. He played with an aggressive streak. He was standing on his blocks and driving guys out of the lanes in the run game, especially on that last drive where they ran the clock out. Look at Broderick Jones clear out some of the lanes that he did in that drive. He was blocking his behind off. So, I thought that was positive. James Daniels is a super, super steady force for them at tackle. And Dan Moore has had a solid start to the year. He had one really ugly rep against Khalil Mack early in the game that got Fields sacked. But outside of that, pretty solid game for him. So the O-line, has been fine in pass pro, but they really need Isaac Seumalo back. And more importantly, in the run game, clean up the mental mistakes, know who you are going to block, make the timing hit, everything like that. Because the run game right now is just a mess. It's not popping because Arthur Smith isn't designing a good scheme. I feel like the schematics are fine. They have the numbers. They have advantageous numbers. They're either not blocking guys correctly, getting there too late, so it's not hitting at the right time. The personnel has been, a little shoddy against Spencer Anderson. Broderick Jones has had his struggles. James Daniels had a very uncharacteristically bad week too, for example. Like all these things have popped up in the run game. So the run game has the potential to pop, and it should pop because they're going to run it and they're going to try and continue to make it pop, and it did. I think it clicked there in that last drive of the fourth quarter. Everything was hitting really well. You saw them open up huge holes, and that was a gassed Chargers defense that they had worn down. But still, the timing, the mental part of that was all there, and I think that's encouraging. That last 10 minutes of the fourth quarter, I think those last two drives, the Austin touchdown and just pounding it down the Chargers defense right there, I think those were two really encouraging drives that you hope the Steelers offense can build off, because with a run game, this offense can really, really be something if they continue to get this play out of Justin Fields.
One quick question on the run game before we talk about that elite Steelers D. Jaylen Warren, if you have him in fantasy, it's like he's disappeared. Is it just the injury, or is Patterson arising to take a more prominent role in this offense?
Yeah, he's been banged up. I don't think he was fully recovered from his hamstring, and then he hurts his knee, and so that is a double whammy for you. And so he's banged up right now, doesn't have the same burst. It's unfortunate to see that for Warren. He could play this week. I'm just not sure he's going to be 100%, so maybe you sit him for a week or two and try and get him back to where he could be. Because again, we talked about this. Cordell Patterson is a very capable back, so you could play him and be okay with it. But yeah, Jaylen Warren just doesn't look healthy, and I also think he's not a incredible scheme fit for what they're doing. But with the timing and with the issues with the assignments, he's a guy that needs momentum and get going and then can win in space. So if you're not even giving him the opportunity to go into space, that's a tough ask for Jaylen Warren. So yeah, I think there's a few factors here, but the health is a huge issue, and so we'll see. I'm not super optimistic about him playing this week. I think it's not just because I don't think he could. I think he maybe could, but I think it might be in their best interest to let him heal and reset. They have a capable running back too in Cordero Patterson.
Right. Now for that D, Cam Hayward playing with his hair on fire, Herbig flying around, Watt racking up sacks. We had that, and you analyzed it on Twitter, and I want you to talk about it. That touchdown that went against Porter Jr. That it seemed like he got sucked in, suckered a little bit on that play, but you kind of had a different take on that. But this defense, and I heard that I have season tickets, but my buddy had them for this week, so I heard the Renegade thing was unbelievable with the crowd, and of course, they just literally dominated that second half. That defense did. So what's your take on the overall play of the D? What's the key to that D right now going into Indy? But also, give Porter Jr. His props on that one play that went for the touchdown for the Chargers.
Yeah, it's interesting. The basis and lifeblood, maybe not just of the defense, but of the team, is the defensive line. Now, they're going to be missing Alex Highsmith. He will be out for a few weeks with that groin injury, which is a blow, but Nick Herbig is just so explosive. I'm interested to see how Nick Herbig holds up against the run. This is going to be a really big test for them because Jonathan Taylor is a star, and they have some really nice run blockers that can get out there. But I thought, you looked at Herbig's run snaps against the Chargers, and I thought he hung in there. So he's really impressive, man. I'm really excited to see what he can do. That whole D-line is playing at a high level. Cam Hayward playing at the way he's doing at 35 is so insane to me. He's going to be an all-pro if he keeps playing like this for 17 games. That's how good he's been. TJ Watt has been TJ Watt. You talk about Renegade, right? The first play after Renegade was a TJ Watt sack. So, that's always fun. So these guys, man, are playing with their hair on fire. They are deep. I'm not even mentioning Keanu Benton, Larry Ogunjobi, Montravius Adams, all these other guys that have played super well. Highsmith was playing really well before he got hurt. And so that unit has been so good. You talk about the secondary, and the secondary has played really well. I think that's been really underrated in their success. I think, even though he hasn't gotten the pick yet, I think Minkah Fitzpatrick, I said it last week, Minka's back to being Minkah. He is like taking away the middle of the field. They're moving him around in different ways so quarterbacks don't know where he is. Anthony Richardson is prone to mistakes. He makes one or two really bad decisions. I'm not saying it's going to be the week, but it might be the week Minkah Fitzpatrick gets that pick that he's been wanting for over a year and a half. So he's been really good. Yeah, you talk about that touchdown. It was interesting. So they had disguised it. So they had looped Deshaun Elliott back down and up, and then Minkah kind of looped out. It was split field coverage. It was cover 6, quarter, half. To the Porter and Minkah side, they're playing cover 2. If you know what cover 2 is, the corner there is going to be playing down underneath the flat, and then if you are the safety, you are going to range out. So what happened really was, I think, two things. One, I think Minkah on the disguise was near the middle of the field and was trying to disguise this so he wasn't as wide as you usually would be in a cover 2 alignment, which made that hole shot that he talked about a little bit bigger. I think Justin Herbert, if you see him kind of looks down to the flat, does a little shoulder fake and goes, I think he got Porter to bite a second early. And that caused Porter not to be able to get hands on Johnson, which would have allowed Minkah to get over there. So I think Herbert did a little bit of nice deception that an elite quarterback would do. And so Porter really probably should have gotten hands on Johnson and then worked down to the flat. And then Minkah could have been a little wider on that. But it was really just really good schematics, really good quarterback play, and they kind of found the weak spot in their players, and it's like, okay, that's an offense gets paid too, right? But
Right.
you can improve upon that. Joey Porter Jr., I do want to see him become better in zone coverage. I think that's his one real weakness right now. I think he's been a really good tackler, willing in run defense, obviously incredible man coverage player. I just want to see the instincts a little bit. Like that play right there is like, okay, Joey, you could have gotten your hands on him and then passed him off. Like, go back to that, and you can learn that a little bit more. And Minka, get a little wider. You know, you don't have to play always the disguise so much to the book when you are going to that middle of the field. Justin Herbert's just too good. He's going to see that, and you saw that. So that was one of those plays where I think they got them. But, yeah, this secondary is playing really well. Dante Jackson's been great. How about for that? He's small, John. Like, he probably looks on TV pretty small, too, when he just comes up and lays the boom. He is willing in the run game. He's willing in the screen game. Deshaun Elliott's been awesome. And that linebacking group, I think, has been pretty solid, too. So this defense is like all around playing at a very high level. And I still think they have things they can improve upon. I think Patrick Queen can play better. I think Peyton Wilson's only going to get better. Beanie Bishop is in the slot. I think he's a young fellow that's got some things to learn, too. But they really have just played so well. 6 second-half points through 3 games. I mean, that's just absurd. You can't say anything about it other than it's absurd. Like, the Broncos' offense isn't very good. I know they went off on the Buccaneers, but I don't think it's going to be a very good offense. But the Falcons' offense has looked pretty good the last 2 weeks, and that Chargers' offense dusted the Raiders and the Panthers. So these offenses weren't just like slouches either.
Great analysis there, and I really think, even though Halloween is still down the road, I think Anthony Richardson could be giving away a few treats to that Steelers D this Sunday in Indy, where you'll be. And I just got to say, the content on PennLive that you're putting out is just unbelievable. It's like a fire hose. So if you're not reading Nick's coverage of the Steelers on PennLive and following him on X or Twitter or whatever you call it, you're missing out, because the coverage has been exhaustive and very, very sharp and smart. So congratulations on that. We'll look forward to all of your coverage leading up to the big game, and have a great trip out there. And let's see if Fields and the Steelers can go 4-0. And we'll see you here next Tuesday for the big show, Steelers Breakdown with Nick Farabaugh.